That's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie. And so we go back there and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, "Great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah."
Believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but
that
I
a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that
trying to
when
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech.
I'm
Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me
gender.
ask you this question then.
トランスジェンダーには女性として競う権利がある。こんにちは皆さん。エリタです。今回の動画なんですけど、上院司法委員会の公聴会で共和党テッド・クルーズ上院議員が人事委員会長のケリー・ロビンソンとオリンピック国体水泳選手のライリー・ゲインズさんに女性スポーツについて質問した場面ですね。元男性のトランスジェンダー選手が女性として競技に参加したことで被害を受けたライリー選手の証言は必見です。それでは頑張って翻訳しましたので一緒に見ていきましょう。ではどうぞ。
Title IX was a landmark civil rights law. It helped create the incredible breadth of women's sports and girls' sports that we see across the country. I believe in girls' sports. I believe in women's sports. I'm the proud father of two daughters who are both athletes. I think participating in competitive sports is a wonderful thing for a young girl. I think it is a wonderful thing for a woman. And I think, unfortunately, today's Democrat Party has decided that women's sports and girls' sports no longer matters. And they're willing to push radical legislation designed to destroy girls' sports and women's sports. Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your courage. You are relatively young, but you have demonstrated incredible courage. And because you have dared to speak up, you have been demonized, you have been vilified. I saw when you were by a leftist mob at San Francisco State University for daring to speak up. You had an incredible record as a swimmer at the University of Kentucky. You were a two-time NCAA All-American. You were a five-time SEC champion. You're an SEC record holder and a two-time Olympic trial qualifier. But yet on March 27th, 2022, something changed. What happened on March 17th, 2022?
That's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie.
And so you tied. What was the consequence of tying?
We went behind the awards podium where typically you're handed your trophy, you're marched out, you're named an All-American. And so we go back there and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, "Great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah." And I question this and I say, why? And at first I shortened it in my testimony, but really he stumbled on his words. He didn't know how to answer this. And at first he's, well, we're just doing this in chronological order. To which I further pressed and I said, okay, well, what are you being chronological about? Because we tied. And if we're doing this off alphabetical order, G comes before T. So what are you being chronological about? To which this wasn't a script they had prepared for him. And he actually appreciated his honesty. He did say, we have to give the trophy for Leah because Leah has to have it for pictures. They've made that clear. Leah has to have the trophy for pictures. You can pose with this trophy, but you have to give yours back. You have to go home empty-handed. Leah Thomas takes the trophy home. End of story.
リア・トーマス選手が女性として女子の大会に出場した際は欧米で大ニュースになりました。話にも出ていた通り、その出場により大きな被害を受けたのが今回動画に出てきているライリー・ゲインズ選手です。彼女が言っている通り、リア選手と同タイムでゴールしたのにもかかわらず、昨今のポリコレに逆らわないためか分かりませんが、ライリー選手にはトロフィーを渡せず、リア選手のものになり、メディア用の表彰台での写真もまるでリア選手が1位だったかのようなものに仕上がってました。大会側が腐ってますよね、これ。それともポリコレが腐ってるんでしょうか。もっとも大会側も同タイムという事態を想定してなかったのか、苦し紛れに順位を時系列で決めたと意味不明な言い訳を残していました。同タイムでしたし、名前のイニシャル的に考えても合点がいかないんですけど、これはいかに。
Now let me ask you, as someone who's competed at the elite level, in your experience, is Is there a difference between women and men?
Of course. I think we learned this at a very young age, watching even 12 and unders play. Going through puberty causes irreversible advantage, that no matter the training, no matter the diet, no matter any alterable change you can make, will overcome that male advantage, especially in sports like swimming, where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing, but when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletic success, not to mention height. You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women,
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
I mean, what I can say here is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition happened,
I'm going to try again.
The rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is that a yes? So I'm trying to get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech. Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're not answering that. Let me ask you this question then.
いろいろな要素が組み合うチームスポーツならまだしも、個人種目で身体能力そのものがゴリゴリに要求される水泳において、そもそもの潜在能力が全く違う男女に違いがあることは必然的であり、これが上院議員という静粛な場で討論されていること自体に少しゾッとしています。そしてそんな当たり前のことにすら受け答えがきちんとできないロビンソンさんが会長にすら慣れてしまう人事委員会は言葉のキャッチボールができない人がほとんどなのでしょうか。いや、人事委員会の人事にはちゃんとしてほしいですね、本当に。
Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex is
My
different
question,
than gender.
why
and I do believe that
women's
sports have a
sports
great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a
we've talked
separate
about it here
category for
today.
women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record an article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100 meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100-meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men. If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete.
いや、皆さん動画どうでしたか？クルーズ議員が未成年の少年たちと成人女性の記録の比較をする際に用いていた法記録は Duke Law と呼ばれるものです。紹介されてました通り、陸上の記録を見てみますと、2017年の成人女性の 100m 走の最高記録が 10.71 秒であるのに比べ、未成年の少年の最高記録がすでに 10.15 秒と、成人女性のものとかなり差があります。もちろん他の競技でも成人男性と成人女性の記録を比べるとさらに大きな差が生まれていることは明確です。この周知の事実を容認せずに元男性選手と女性選手を混合して競わせることは一生懸命頑張っている女性選手のことを妨げることの他になりません。これ以上多方面でポリコレの波が押し寄せないことを願うばかりです。では現地の声いくつか紹介していきますね。Weird times when a man defends a woman's rights against a woman. The fact that he had to ask the same question 8 times and she couldn't answer it straight says all that needed to be said. People are brainwashed and think this is completely okay. Downright disgusting. It's so hard to believe that we live in a time where so is there a difference between man and a woman is a real question. This is literally insane. She refused to answer the question because she knows the answer destroys the ridiculousness of her agenda. God bless Senator Cruz for standing up for women's rights. He gave one example in track and field to point out the difference between men and women. There are millions of other examples. That's no hyperbole. That's the truth that everybody knows. As somebody who grew up as a competitive swimmer and understands the amount of time, sacrifice, and effort that goes into being the best possible version of yourself, this case hits close to home. It's crazy to me the fact that women who have trained their whole life for one single event can't have their entire career crash just for the sake of inclusion of somebody who calls themselves something they're clearly not. To turn a blind eye to the obvious physical advantages biological men have over biological women is absolutely absurd and honestly disgusting. My heart goes out to any woman who have been affected by this extreme injustice to female athletes. 皆さんの考えもコメントで教えてくださいね。このチャンネルではマジかよっていう欧米ニュースを楽しく取り扱ってます。チャンネル登録していただけるととっても喜びますんでよろしくお願いします。では良い一日を。